It's 100 cash by Friday. That's all he said, like he was reading off a receipt. I was still drying my hands standing by the sink where I'd just finished cleaning up after breakfast. The plate Camille used, the coffee mug Evan left on the counter, even the frying pan they'd both forgotten to rinse. I hadn't even put away the dish rag when the words landed. Camille didn't look up. She scrolled on her phone, her legs curled under her like she owned the place. Maybe she thought she did. I blinked once. "Excuse me." Evan kept his eyes on his watch. "Rent for the room. It's only fair. We talked about it, and this is what we came up with." This like it was a family decision, like I had to say. My mouth opened, then shut again. Not because I had no words, just too many. They'd been building for weeks. Little comments, quiet shifts, Camille's labels on food in the fridge, Evan asking if I could help cover the internet this month. At first it was subtle, framed as contribution, a little help. Now it was a bill. "I didn't know I needed to pay rent in my own home," I said. He winced, just a flicker. "It's just the room, Mom, and we pay everything else. Camille's working 2 jobs. You get your pension. It's only fair." Fair. That word kept echoing in my head as I walked back to my room. Not thank you. Not we're grateful you let us stay. Just rent cash and fair. A price tag on 35 years of parenting. My knees ached as I sat on the edge of the bed. The corner of the mattress still sagged. Evan used to jump on it when he was 5, pretending it was a pirate ship. Now he wanted 100. I reached for my sweater, suddenly cold. Down the hall, I heard Camille laugh at something on her phone. My name wasn't part of it. I stayed quiet, but something inside me had already started to shift. The door doesn't quite shut all the way. It catches at the frame like the house knows I don't fully belong here anymore. This used to be the guest room back when guests actually came, back when we had people over for birthdays and Sunday dinner, and Evan still asked me to make his favorite soup. Now it's my room, though no one calls it that. They still say things like, "We put your things in the guest room," or "Can you keep the door closed?" The smell from the laundry is strong because, yes, my room shares a wall with the washer and dryer. The machines hum all day. They rattle the thin shelves where I keep my folded sweaters and the old photo albums I didn't want boxed up in the attic. I used to laugh about that sort of thing. Now it hums like a reminder. Camille labeled her oat milk again. Pink tape, bold black letters, not for sharing. I put my groceries on the lower shelf, the one closest to the floor where the fridge runs coldest. I don't need much. Some soup, crackers, tea. I've started skipping dinner most nights. Not out of spite, just to avoid the tension. They like to eat late, loud, and together. I don't belong at that table anymore. Evan asked me yesterday if I could hold off using the dryer while he was on Zoom. "The noise echoes," he said, like I was some neighbor with an old leaf blower. I nodded, of course. I always nod. Even the twins, sweet as they are starting to notice. Last week, one of them whispered, "Why does Grandma live in the laundry room?" I laughed it off, but that question stayed with me. It echoed every time I closed my door, every time I folded my own bed sheets while Camille watched TV in the big room I used to call mine. It's not the rent that stings, it's how easily they moved on, how ordinary it all seems to them. Today, I found a note taped to my tea canister. It said, "Please ask before using." I never said no to the rent. I just started saying less. I stopped answering right away when Evan mentioned bills. I stopped reacting when Camille sighed dramatically near the dishwasher or rolled her eyes when I folded towels differently than she liked. I stopped volunteering for school pickups or midday grocery runs. Quiet doesn't mean weak. Sometimes it's just the sound a woman makes when she's planning her exit. On paper, I can afford the rent, but dignity has never been listed in my monthly budget. I started gathering little things, not stuffed numbers. I opened the old file box I keep under the bed. Inside, birthday cards with crisp 20s tucked in their folds. A refund check from an overpaid dental bill. My teacher's pension statements printed and barely unfolded. I added it all up with a red pen like I used to do for my classroom budgets. It wouldn't be luxury, but it would be mine. I didn't tell anyone, not even my best friend Ruthie on our weekly calls. I told her I was just browsing when I asked about rentals in her area. But I was doing more than that. I was checking neighborhoods, driving past places after running errands, making calls, taking notes. Then one afternoon, I came home to a fresh document taped to my bedroom door. A spreadsheet titled, Shared Living Costs Updated. Camille had bolded the new rent figure, added gas, electric, even toilet paper. A highlighted cell at the bottom read, Total per person, $1,210. I stared at it for a long time, not because I didn't understand it, but because I did. This wasn't a home, it was a split bill. I wasn't mom anymore. I was overhead. That night, I didn't eat dinner. I sat in my room, lit my small lamp, and pulled out the folder I'd been hiding under my sweaters. I printed the lease application I'd bookmarked last week. It was for a one-bedroom across the county line. Nothing special, but it had a garden view. I signed the first page and slid it back into the folder. I woke up before sunrise out of habit. The kitchen was still dark and the house silent, except for the hum of the refrigerator. I moved slowly, setting the oven, pulling out the turkey I'd thawed on the bottom shelf, already seasoned from the night before. I didn't ask who would be there. I just started cooking. The smell of roasted garlic and sage filled the house by 10. I basted the turkey, made stuffing with mushrooms and leeks, mashed the potatoes by hand the way Evan used to like, leaving them a little lumpy. I even made cranberry sauce from scratch. No cans this year. By noon, Camille floated in with her usual soft tone. "Oh, Corliss, just so you know, we invited some friends over. It might be a little crowded in the dining room. Would you mind eating in your room?" She said it kindly, like a suggestion, like I still had a choice. I nodded and wiped my hands on the dish towel. Evan passed behind her without a word, grabbing napkins from the drawer. He didn't meet my eyes. Not once. I went back to my room, the guest room, and sat on the edge of the bed, hands resting on my knees. No one set a place for me. No one asked if I needed anything. Later, Evan knocked once. He didn't wait for me to answer. He walked in and placed a paper plate on the dresser. Turkey, a scoop of potatoes, and a small slice of pie. No fork, no napkin. He said, "Happy Thanksgiving," and left. I stared at the food until it grew cold. Then I dropped it in the trash, rinsed the plate, and left it in the dish rack like any other dirty dish. I didn't cry. I sat by the window as night settled in, listening to muffled laughter rising from the living room. Light spilled into the hallway under my door. I didn't move. I just reached up and removed the folded bill taped to the doorframe, a list of December's shared expenses due next week. I folded it in half and added it to the folder under my bed. It was a Tuesday. Nothing happened that morning. No blow-up, no final straw, just stillness. I got up early, made my tea, and drank it slowly while looking out the window. Then I folded the quilt at the foot of my bed and began to pack. One suitcase for clothes, another for books, a tote bag for toiletries, and the soft yellowing quilt my grandmother stitched by hand. Last, I wrapped the chipped mug Evan made in 3rd grade, the one he gave me with 2 hands and a proud grin. I'd kept it all these years, even when the handle cracked. I didn't need much else, just what would fit in the back seat. I'd already signed the lease the day before, a small 1-bedroom cottage by the marsh. Nothing fancy, but it had morning light and a creaky porch, and the landlord didn't ask questions when I paid the deposit and first month's rent in full. By noon, the car was loaded. I wiped down the countertops one last time out of habit. Took the tea canister Camille had labeled, left everything else. I wrote final on the memo line of a check and taped it to the fridge. The amount matched what they asked for. No note, no smiley face, no forwarding address. I didn't lock the door when I left. It wasn't my house to lock anymore. That evening, while I unpacked in a place that didn't smell like anyone else's cooking, Evan must have come home and opened the fridge. Maybe he stood there holding the check, waiting for an explanation that wouldn't come. Camille would have noticed first. The missing clothes, the empty drawer. She would have told him flatly, "She's not here." And that would have been it. No big goodbye, no final confrontation, just absence, quiet and complete. By nightfall, I'd unpacked the books and set the mug on the windowsill. The wind rattled the blinds a little. It sounded like freedom. The next morning, I turned off my phone and opened all the windows. The first morning, I slept in past 8. No footsteps above my head, no dryer thumping through the wall. I made tea in silence and carried it to the porch. The air smelled like salt and pine. I hadn't heard birds in months. I read until the sun moved past the railing. I warmed soup on the stove without labels or reminders. When I left dishes in the sink, there was no voice behind me asking when I'd be done. I didn't answer to anyone. It felt strange at first, like I'd slipped out of time, but not wrong, just overdue. On the second day, I turned my phone on briefly to check the weather. That's when I saw the first string of missed calls. Evan, Camille, a number I didn't recognize, probably from work, one from the twins' school. I didn't open the voicemails. I turned the phone back off. Day 3. I let the phone stay on. It started just after 10 a.m. The first buzz made me jump. The second came 5 minutes later, then a string of them. Call after call. 35 by the time I finally flipped it face down on the counter. The messages ranged from confusion to panic to something that tried to sound like love. "Where are you? Call me, please. We didn't mean to upset you. The girls are asking about you. You can't just disappear like this." But I could. And I had. I folded towels slowly, enjoying the soft crackle of sun-warmed cotton. I set them on the shelf I just cleaned, neat and centered. No one would move them here. No one would sigh or shift them or rewrite the labels. I walked outside barefoot on the porch and let the sun hit my shoulders. They didn't miss me, not really. They missed the meals, the laundry folded before they asked, the quiet presence that filled in their lives without making demands. They missed what I gave, but not the person who gave it. The photo popped up in my messages around noon, a picture of soggy takeout boxes and a wilted salad posted by Camille. The caption read, "Not the same without you." There was a sad face emoji at the end, like that made it tender. I didn't reply. I just stared at it for a moment and let out a soft laugh. Not bitter, just finished. The day was warm and I'd just washed the porch chairs. I'd bought a little oilcloth tablecloth from the corner store and spread it over the side table, even though no one was coming, or so I thought. Around 3, a knock. It was the woman from 2 doors down. "Miriam," she held out a basket. "Figs," she said, "from the tree out back. They're falling faster than I can eat." We ended up talking for hours about figs, about rain, about nothing urgent. She asked about my name, my work before retirement, what I liked to read. No one had asked me about myself in a long time, at least not without a follow-up request to babysit or fix something. I poured her tea and didn't worry if the mugs matched. That evening, I checked my phone again. A new message from Evan. "It's been chaos without you. We didn't realize how much you handled." There was no apology, no question about how I was, just another reminder of what I used to offer. Comfort, stability, clean socks, full meals, quiet company. It struck me that their version of love was measured in usefulness, what I made easier, what I took off their plates. Maybe they did miss me, but maybe only the way someone misses a working light bulb when the power goes out. I went back outside. The figs were sweet. My hands were sticky. I licked my fingers and smiled. The air smelled like something blooming I couldn't name. I didn't need to name it. It was enough to feel it. The next morning I woke early, but not from habit, just because I wanted to. I opened the windows and sat with a book on my lap, already forgetting the sound of their dishwasher. The message came from Clara, a neighbor from 3 streets over. We used to bump into each other on morning walks, her dog tugging at the leash, my hands full of grocery bags. She'd always ask about Evan's girls, and I'd always have some story to share. What they'd drawn, how they mispronounced spaghetti, the way they liked to braid my hair when Camille wasn't looking. Her text was simple. "You always seem so patient. I miss seeing you with the kids." I stared at it for a while. It wasn't fishing. It wasn't guilt-laced. It didn't ask for anything, just a note from someone who'd seen me, actually seen me. I typed slowly, "Thank you, I'm okay now." Then I hit send and set the phone down. Later that evening, I pulled out the framed photo of the girls, the one from last fall, both of them in matching sweaters, standing crooked on the porch steps. I'd framed it myself. Not fancy, just something to remind me why I stayed so long. I carried it out to the backyard, past the herb pots and the shed with the rusted lock. There was a lemon tree by the fence, short but sturdy. Its leaves were glossy, and a few green fruits clung to the lower branches. I didn't bury the photo. I didn't smash the frame. I simply set it down beneath the tree, propped it against the trunk where the earth was cool. It wasn't a rejection, just a release. I stood there for a long time, watching the light shift through the leaves, thinking about all the ways we tether ourselves to versions of love that look like duty. Back inside, I boiled water for tea. Not the labeled kind, just loose leaves from a jar a new friend had given me. I sat by the window with the curtains open wide and sipped slowly, no one expecting anything from me. Tomorrow, I'd sort the box of Christmas decorations I'd brought but never opened. Not to put them up, but maybe to give some away. He arrived just after noon, unannounced. I heard the car first, the crunch of tires on gravel, and for a moment, I thought it might be Miriam bringing more figs. But when I opened the door, it was Evan alone. "No, Camille," he said. He looked smaller, somehow his shoulders rounded, eyes tired. He held a paper bag in one hand. "I brought sandwiches," he said, like that explained anything. I stepped aside and nodded toward the table. We sat without speaking for a minute. I poured tea because that's what I do when I don't know what to say. He fiddled with the lid of his cup, glancing around the small kitchen. "I didn't think you'd really leave," he said finally. "I didn't think I would either." He nodded, biting his lip. "The girls ask for you every night. They don't understand why you're not there. Camille says they'll forget, but I don't think they will." His voice cracked on the last word, and for a second I saw the boy who used to cry when he scraped his knee and wanted me to make it better. "I'm glad they remember," I said. "They'll be fine." He swallowed hard, then looked straight at me. "Can you come back? Maybe not forever, just for a while. Things feel empty." I set my cup down carefully. "I'm not angry, Evan, but I'm not yours to manage anymore." He blinked fast, as if the words stung more than he expected. His eyes glistened, but I didn't move to comfort him. It wasn't cruelty, it was clarity. For once, I wasn't the one filling silence with softness. He stood after a moment, looking unsure of what to do with his hands. I walked him to the door. He leaned in and hugged me tight and trembling. I let him, but I didn't step outside. When the car pulled away, I stayed in the doorway, feeling the air settle back into its calm rhythm. The house didn't feel emptier. It felt steady. The laundry dries faster in the sun out here. I pin the last sheet to the line and watch it ripple in the breeze like a small sail. There's no rush, no pile of other people's clothes waiting. Just mine. Soft, clean, and exactly enough. I don't do it because I have to. I do it because I like how the fabric smells when it's touched by wind and daylight. That's become my new rule. Do things I want, not just things that keep the peace. This morning I joined a book club. Miriam brought me as a guest, but the women there made space like they'd been expecting me. We sat around a big round table with chipped edges, and someone passed cookies in a cracked tin. It reminded me of the teacher's lounge before everything got quiet. The librarian knew my name. She smiled and asked if I needed a card. "Yes," I said, "a new one." She wrote it carefully on the form in large, neat letters. "Elaine." That was it. No title, no label, not mom, not ma, not grandma, just my name. I hadn't realized how long it had been since someone asked for it without attaching a roll. When I came home, I made lentil soup and left the windows open. The late light filtered through the curtain like a hush. I sat in the center of the room, not tucked in a corner or pressed against a schedule. I drank tea from my favorite mug, the one Evan made when he still thought I hung the moon. And I didn't feel sad. I felt whole. I didn't need anyone to say thank you or ask me where something was or text me pictures of chaos. My quiet wasn't their punishment. It was my arrival. Later that night, I pulled the small notebook from the drawer and wrote one sentence at the top of a fresh page. "This is what it feels like to come home." Then I turned off the light and slept with the window open, the sound of crickets soft against the dark.